strands of Aphrodite's girdle. This sixth strand inevitably inspires the most grief. Grief over infertility, past abortions, lost children, dead children, hysterectomies, crippling menstrual pain, a yearning for babies that can't or don't happen for a variety of reasons. Our wombs are hotbeds of emotion and unexpressed pain. I wonder if being able to process these huge, life-changing issues more fully at the time of their experience would go some way towards healing our whole relationships with our bodies, sexuality and femininity. Menstrual cycles are just that, cycles. Further, they are cycles of relatedness. They are linked to the moon and to the tides of the ocean. Should we be living in a house with other fertile women, our cycles will relate to each other's. Unlike the linear vision we have of our lives, progressing from birth through to death along a straight line of important events, menstrual cycles remind us that life occurs around and around in cycles or spirals. Apart from the day-night-day cycle, menstrual cycles are the most prominent reminder we have that things move in circles. They remind us we came from our mothers, and they came from their mothers. They remind us of the full history of gestating, birthing and bleeding women. They remind us the ending of one cycle is the beginning of another, and of our body's inescapable connection to life and death. Although our culture celebrates cycles, birthdays, anniversaries, New Year, and most religious festivals are all cyclic celebrations, we still continue with the linear model that brings great struggle and grief with it, insisting, as it does, on current success, continual growth, and the one-way street of life and death. We believe the death of a loved one will mean a future devoid of that person, because the moment in time when they die gets left behind as we travel ever onwards. Yet cultures that have viewed time as circular or cyclic have quite a different relationship to death. Even the way we bury people is an obvious contrast to ancient burials, where people lie curled up on their sides as if placing them in the earth is returning them to the womb. One woman I knew carried a debilitating grief over an abortion she had. It was not that she regretted it, but she felt the shame and guilt over having cut short a potential life. When we began to speak of cycles, and she realised that, however brief, the fetus had had its own cycle of beginning, existence and ending, she came into a more peaceful place. The circular model had given her what a linear model never could, the sense that this spark of life had its own belonging in the life cycle. Women who've had hysterectomies when they weren't ready, didn't choose them, or hadn't finished their childbearing can also experience this pain of being cast adrift. Perhaps viewing the larger cycles of birth, fertility and death might assist them in finding their place within the generations of women of their family, tribe and even ancestral race. The experiences each woman has had, rather than the experiences they've missed out on, can serve as a touching point for receiving blessings from our wombs instead of the curse. Infertility, whether psychological or circumstantial, can also lead to unending grief, regret and a sense of lost purpose, failure and unlived potential. This is rarely mourned or acknowledged the way the death of a child is, and yet it can be as potent for those experiencing it. We tend to ignore the fact that all children who are born will die. Each being has a cycle of life and death, and these cycles are not arranged to our own choosing or our preferred imagining of the way the world should be. Even if our personal cycles and our family's cycles do not run to our preference, still we and they have been part of that larger cycle, as well as our individual cycles. An artist friend of mine whose only child died aged 10 painted a series of half-rending pieces. They showed a woman shaped in a half circle like a boat, or a crescent moon, with a child held within the scoop of her body. Thus the child's life is contained, both beginning and ending, within the life of the mother, who holds all of it in the shelter of her body. I do not think this art or this understanding lessened the grief of my friend. I do think it helped her place her experience within the great cycles of life and allowed her to continue to hold it in a way that felt honouring to her. By acknowledging the cyclic nature of life, we can hold it and be held within it, rather than moving on to progressively more distant places. In the cycle of life, we are always returning. Thus, we may be able to hear the voices of our ancestors when we walk on their sacred ground, and we can continue to feel the presence of loved ones, even after their death. Our fertility is a small piece of the Earth's vast and rich fertility, which births birds and animals